What's going on, guys? It's your boy Celeb Man. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Obviously Celeb Wife is not here, and that's because in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about what it's like communicating with someone who is autistic. So I'm going to talk a lot about our communication, mine and Haley's, and just what it's like, how we sort of navigate through our conversations. I'm going to focus on 3 elements, guys. The first element, I'm going to focus on communication just on a regular basis. So our regular communication, just a typical chit chat conversation. The second one I'm going to focus on is focusing on our communication when I need to tell her something. If I need to be honest with her and say, you know, you've not been doing this, or you need to help out more, or whatever it is, how I have to kind of go about that type of conversation. And the third thing is our communication whenever we get into an argument. Now, obviously we're married couples, so you know that these things happen. And these are just some of the things that I have found to be helpful while we're communicating. They may not all be perfect and it may not work for everybody, but it definitely does work for us just a little bit. I'm still sort of working on it, and she is also working on it as well. And we're finding different techniques that we can use so that we can better our communication. I'm just going to get right into it, guys. Let me just give a short little disclaimer that my wife is very comfortable with me speaking about these things. If anything, she encourages it because it's a continuous learning process for her and for myself. So it's widely encouraged. But a lot of you as well have really been commenting, expressing how grateful you are for these as well, as it really helps, as a lot of you are in similar marriages, either on my side or on my wife's side. So thank you guys for your comments. And thank you for your communication. So I'll get right into it. So the first thing is what it's like communicating with someone just on a typical conversation, and what that's sort of like. So if Haley and I are having a sort of discussion, whatever the topic is, it's generally quite straightforward. We both have our back and forths, and 2 things sort of happens depending on how she's engaging in the conversation. Now, if she's if she's not engaged in the conversation, what you'll find is her brain wanders. So if we're talking about what shall we have for dinner, and we're discussing that, oh, would you like potatoes or maybe rice? As we're discussing this, she might see something on her phone and be fully 100% distracted. So as I will ask the question, shall we have lasagna? Her response could be, oh my days, look at this video, right? And I have to be like, babe, focus, like we're talking here. She's like, yeah, I'm listening. So what we've done is, you know, if I approach her to have a basic conversation on this type of level, I usually just wait till she's finished doing what she's doing. So I'll ask her, hey babe, can we talk about something real quick? She'll be like, yeah. I said, I'll just wait till you're done. So if she's on her phone or something, playing games, whatever it is, I'll just wait till she finishes and locks the screen. Or if she's pressing some bags for her orders, I'll wait till she's finished. So whatever it is, I'll just wait. And then when she's done, we can have more of a back-to-back conversation. And then that generally runs a lot more smoother. But again, we can't be in this place for too long, and she will get quite annoyed and irritated quite quickly because a decision hasn't been made. So I generally try to keep those conversations a little bit too quick. If she's excited, on the other hand, she won't be distracted by other things, but she would have a lot to say. So what I would find is that she would interrupt me a lot while I'm saying, you know, if I'm having a little dialogue moment, you know, oh yeah, that's really, really good. I really, really, she'll, oh, and also, and she'll sort of just, you know, say what she's gonna say. And her reasoning is that if she doesn't say it then and there, she can forget. She can forget. So that one we haven't got a solution for. The solution is that I've just accepted it. just let her talk over me. And if I am a little bit frustrated, I'll just say, babe, I was speaking, and she'll apologize. So, and then I carry on speaking. The second point is communicating with my wife when I've got something serious, something truthful that I've got to tell her, something that I might need to tell her about herself, and just having an honest conversation with her. This one is really tricky because nobody likes being told if you're doing something wrong or if you need to correct something or whatever it is. Nobody likes to be told, whether you are autistic or whether you're not, or even if you have any other conditions to think about. Nobody likes to be told. So what I've adopted, my brother actually used this technique. It's where you ask them, so before you tell them something, you usually ask this phrase, hey babe, can I be honest with you? The reason why you start with that phrase, it does one of two things. One, it preempts them to be aware that you're about to say something that they need to hear. And secondly, it also gives them the option to decline. So oftentimes, if I say to my wife, can I be honest with you, and she's not in the space to hear it, she'll just respond by saying, this isn't a good time, or no, I don't want you to be honest with me. And that's it, and we'll just leave it as that. But most times it's, yeah, go on, meaning I'm ready to take on what you have to say. And I think that's a really good technique, especially because once you develop the habit of saying, can I be honest with you, and you both know what's coming, the option to decline, I think also is good. I don't think it should be a decline full stop. It's more so like a delayed, like decline but delayed. So just not right now, maybe later, rather than I don't want to hear it at all, because that isn't the space of growth. So it is just that, and I think that's a really good technique. So when we do have to say it, can I be honest with you, we are ready to receive what the person is about to say. And then we just say whatever the phrase is. I don't like the way you made my eggs this morning, whatever it is. But we'll say what it is that we have to say. Now, what I found in my case is that with Hayley, it almost doesn't matter how I say it, as long as I've said it. What I'm trying to say is this: when I first started this, and I first been honest with her, even before this technique, it was always a case of, it wasn't what I said, it was the way that I said it to her. I don't like it. Either it was very aggressive, or there wasn't any sympathy, or whatever it was, which was her feedback to me. So over the years, I've really been cautious and thoughtful about how I deliver this message to her, especially when I know it's one of those the truth hurts kind of comments. So I've always been quite careful. Sometimes I've been overly loving and overly cuddly and kisses before I say it. Sometimes I've been quite stern. Sometimes I've been whatever it is. And the truth is that I haven't found any way that works. And I kind of come to the conclusion that I don't think anything does work. That's just how she's gonna take it. And so I've just learned that rather than staying in that conversation for a long time, let it be a short, quick, fast conversation. Get in, say what you're gonna say, get out. And I think that's sort of the best way to approach it. So it doesn't really linger. And also be very gracious with the loving words after you've said what you have to say. Let me give you an example. I won't be too specific with our details, but just on the general sort of outline. My wife was just getting a little bit recently anyway, well, quite a while ago actually, just a few things that I wanted her just to sort of step up with, just in terms of maintaining the order of our home. And I just addressed something to her that I found. And I was like, oh, babe, you know what? I just really feel like I want you to maintain the order of the home a little bit more. And she didn't receive it too well, you know, and she was just like, I could see it in her facial expressions. And I listed some ideas that that could work, because again, you have to be very specific with my wife with the way her autism works. So I have to be very literal about it. So I gave her specifics of things that she can do, in my opinion, to help out the dynamics of our relationship. And after I said those things, which again I knew she received quite strong, I was like, but I am grateful for the other things that you do as well. And I have taken into consideration that you have been, and I did, look at the things that she has been doing, and I told her how grateful I was for, you have been doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm so grateful that you have been doing those things. I don't want you to feel like I haven't noticed it. So that way it was easier to sort of digest what I'm saying. And that's been the best technique, or the best way to sort of deal with having that type of honest conversation. I think that's been the best way that's worked out of everything else. Well, to be fair, like I said, nothing has really been the best, because it's never really received well. So I think having an extra dose of loving words, and I think recognizing something that they have done and adding that into the mix, even if you have to search for it, dig for it, find something, and it definitely cushions the conversation a lot. So point number 3 is communicating while in an argument. Now this one is really, really tough. And I think we've made a lot of headway in this space. And we used to have some arguments, and it wasn't even real arguments, like things that was based off something. You spent all our money on what? Like nothing like that. It was just small things, marital things. But what was interesting was a lot of the reasons why the anger even came. So again, it was like your tone. Why are you shouting at me? You're talking down at me, or you're being rude while you're in the argument. And obviously in arguments, anything can happen, right? So one thing that, and this is really hard to do because you're already angry. So while we're in an argument, we have come to the place where we ask questions within the argument. So for example, if me and my wife are having an argument and we're shouting at each other at something, I will stop and say, by the way, you're shouting. And her response would either be, I'm sorry, I don't mean to shout, and try and tone it back. And then, or it will be, but you're shouting as well. And I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll stop shouting, you stop shouting. And that way, we bring the conversation back down to a conversation level rather than a shouting level. And then again, in the argument, but rather than it be shouting at each other, we're talking to each other. So that's one thing that we do. The second thing, again, is we don't assume by asking the questions. So say, for example, if you're assuming that I was disrespectful, why would you say that? You disrespected me. Actually, I didn't mean to disrespect you. This is what I was trying to say. The reason why that's really important is because a lot of the times we react because we're assuming something. And this is still the case today in our marriage. We had an argument about 2 weeks ago because of an assumption. So just having the clarity, did you mean this when you said X, Y, and Z? Because I don't really like that. It makes me feel some type of way. No, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. Okay, so it clarifies any assumption, and that can then de-escalate the argument again and keep it on a conversation level where you're able to listen to one another. So asking questions in the middle of argument, I know that's really hard to do because you're so angry sometimes, and with that anger can come, with the argument comes anger, frustration, annoyance. So sometimes it might be hard to keep your composure, but it's a skill. You literally work on it. Haley's getting better at it for sure. I'm getting better at it for sure, and it's definitely working. And what I found is that it de-escalates the argument quite quickly, and most importantly, it stops it from escalating as well. Because oftentimes you can be talking about something and just get frustrated because of how they responded back to you, especially when you're with someone, 24/7, and a lot of your touchy and sensitive moments, are shared, and they may say the wrong thing to you the wrong way, and you can just completely blow at that person, but actually they've not had any intention to come across that way, and now you've just reacted to that person because of an assumption. You assumed that they were being rude or disrespectful to you by the way they said that comment, but they may have not even intended it to come across that way. So if that did happen, rather than react, just ask the question: did you actually mean that when you said that? Yeah, I did mean that. I actually did mean that. Oh, well, then you can blow right back at them. But oftentimes you would find that, that's not what somebody meant, and they didn't mean to offend you or hurt you, and again, it de-escalates most arguments, and importantly, it keeps you guys communicating at a mature, responsible level, and you're able to communicate more effectively that way. And oftentimes arguments are resolved quite quickly. That was actually, again, that's a really difficult one, and it does require a lot of skill. And don't be, I feel like just addressing things oftentimes, as often as possible, definitely helps once the argument has sort of dissolved. Whether or not it's been resolved, but it's just dissolved, and you can just relive the moment and just talk about it, and just ask each other, what can I do in these circumstances to, so that it doesn't get too angry. Yeah, and that's about it. The other thing that I would say, the reason why it's also good as well, is because when Haley and I get into an altercation, like an argument, she likes to walk away. If she's so, angry and frustrated, she wants to walk away from the situation so she can cool down and so she can relax, and then she can relive the conversation again. But what I found in the past is that her cooling down spans over 3 or 4 days before she then approaches me. And even then, she doesn't really approach me. Something happens where it's like, oh, he's still not happy. What's going on? Is it the argument? Let's talk about it. And like, the last time we had a conversation about this, I said to her that I don't think that's effective. Unless when you're walking away, you're purposely and intentionally cooling down, figuring out what happened and trying to resolve it, and then coming back. But it's intentional, not just I'm cooling down and I'm going off to do whatever I want, because then I feel like she forgets and then doesn't really know that, I don't like staying in that space where I'm angry or she's angry and we haven't resolved it. So, it's a mixture of both, emotions, because she wants to relax, whereas I want to get this thing resolved. So just communication, just talking about it and saying, listen, I don't think it's an effective way, and I think this is better, or rather ask the question, what do you think would be better in this space? I think has been the best thing for us, especially in that argumentative space. And the thing is, we're rarely in that space where we are completely arguing at each other. It rarely happens, which again, why it's hard to work on it. But when it does happen, it's about being intentional. So yeah, I think that is everything to say on our communication. But overall it really does work. I've seen the big difference when we communicate like that. When you ask the question, can I be honest with you? It allows them to decide whether they want to receive what you're about to say or not. Being patient if you're having a regular conversation, to allow them to finish, the task at hand. If she's doing a task and she's engrossed in it, I need to recognize that that is not the time for me to stop her from doing what she's doing, especially when she's involved in something, she's fully involved. It's not the time for me to say, hey, stop what you're doing, let's have a conversation. It's not fair. So it's about being patient, recognizing that she's doing something and just being patient. Even if you gotta wait 10, 15 minutes till she's done, wait. It really, really, really helps. And then just asking questions. By the way, is this what you meant when you said this? You see your tone when you said that was really, really aggressive, and it makes me feel like you some type of way. Did you mean to be aggressive? Just asking the questions, and it really does make a big difference. So yeah, that's a little short video for you guys today. Well, I think it's short anyway. Just about addressing communication, you know, whilst having an autistic partner. And I hope those tips help. Again, guys, I'm not a specialist. I'm not perfect. These are just my experiences in my marriage. If you guys have any other tips or comments, please feel free to comment down below. I would love to learn. I'd love to understand more about this sort of topic, guys. But thank you guys for watching. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please make sure to do so. And yeah, peace.